Hello, friends. I'm Bayan Khalil from Jeddah University, and my doctor is Ala Ben Khalaf. Today, I will explain about the speech mechanism. Let's start with the first slide. It's about stages of speech mechanism. The first stage is breathing stage, phonation stage, and the next is phonation stage, and resonation stage, articulation stage. The last one is articulation stage. Let's move to the second slide, which is about the breathing stage. Its definition is here air moves from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. Breathing, which is primarily concerned with maintaining life, is secondarily for assisting in vocalization. It consists of two phases, inhalation and exhalation. Serve as the reservoir, reservoir of air. As you inhale, fill the lungs comfortably in preparation for speaking. The first assistant is the diaphragm, and its definition is a large sheet of muscle separating the chest cavity from the abdomen. Forms the floor of the chest and the roof of the abdomen, gives pressure to the breath stream. The next slide is about the phonation stage. Its phonation takes place when voice is produced in speaking as the expiratory air from the lungs goes up through the trachea or windpipe to the larynx. The next slide is about the larynx, principal organ of phonation, found at top of the trachea. Protuberance is known as the Adam's apple. Next slide is about the vocal cords, which is a pair of bundles of muscles and cartilages, open and close at various degrees. The next slide is about trachea, also known as windpipe, passageway of air going up from the lungs. The voice produced in phonation is weak. It becomes strong and rich only when amplified and modified by the human resonators. Resonation is the process of voice amplification and modification. The next slide is about the pharynx, and its properties are common passageway for air and food, located behind the nose and mouth and includes the cavity at the back of the tongue. Division of the pharynx is nasal cavity, oral pharynx, no, nasal pharynx, oral pharynx and laryngeal pharynx. The next slide is about the nose, and the properties of the nose are nostrils, opening of the external nose, nasal cavity, internal nose, directly behind the external nose, so which uh, which the air passes on its way to the pharynx. Septum divided the external and internal nose into two separate passageways. The next slide is about mouth, and its properties are divided into the vestibule and the oral cavity proper. Vestibule filled by placing the tongue tip outside the teeth, put inside lips, put inside the lips. Oral cavity filled by retracting the tongue, closing the jaws, and moving the tongue about. The components of the mouth, as shown in this slide, are mouth oral cavity, gingiva, gums, hard palate, uvula, papilla, papillae of tongue, premolar and canine, incisor, tongue, molars, palatine tonsil, soft palate, and lips. The next is about the resonators and its upper parts of the larynx, pharynx, nasal cavity, and oral cavity. Let's move to the next stage, which is articulation stage. And its definition is articulation occurs when the tone producing produced, and the larynx is changed into specific sound. This is the result of the movement of the articulation towards the points of articulation. The first component of the articulation stage is the the lips, which are highly flexible, can be moved into numerous positions essential to articulation, serve as important surfaces in articulation embedded in the alveolar ridge or gum ridge of the oral cavity. Let's move to the next slide, which is the teeth. Serve as important surfaces in articulation embedded in the alveolar ridge or gum ridge of the oral cavity. The following are the gum, which is also known as hard palate, funny roof of the mouth, serve as an important surface against which the tongue makes contact. The next is uvula, which is small knob of the lower border of the soft palate, movable tip at the middle of the free border of the soft palate. The next slide is about the velum, which is also known as the soft palate, separates the nasal pharynx from the oral cavity, a flexible curtain attached along the rear border of the hard palate. And the last component, which is the tongue, which is flexible organ consisting of muscles, glands, and connective tissue. Parts of the tongue: apex or bit, uh, apex or tip, sorry, blade, front, center, and root. The next slide is an explanation of the components of articulation. It is lower jaw, lower lip, tongue, velum, and uvula. The next slide is points of articulation, which is upper lip, upper teeth, upper alveolar ridge, hard palate, and soft palate. This is my explanation for this lecture. I hope that you have benefited from it and have continued in the care of God with peace.